The men's Money in the Bank ladder match features 7 talents from WWE, ranging from the very top, by which I mean Logan Paul of course, to much lower down the card where we see Ricochet, Santos Escobar relatively new, and plenty in between, Damian Priest, LA Knight, lots of experience, lots of talent. Spoiler alert and a spoiler warning because we're going to be ranking them from 1 to 7 based on what chance they actually have of winning this thing. We're using backstage information, we're using exclusive information, we're using plenty of reports out there as well to really work out who the WWE are pushing, and this is particularly difficult at the moment when you consider there is an ongoing war between Triple H and Vince McMahon. More on that story later on during spoiler warning. Let's start with number 7 then. And I have to start, unfortunately, much like I did on the women's video, with a member of the LWO. Santos Escobar has no chance of winning the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. He's mostly there to do the flips and the tricks, much like the next person I'll be listing, and guarantee that we get a quality match out of this. He will guarantee that we get a quality match out of this, and in many ways, this is a reward for some great work recently, but unfortunately for Santos Escobar, there is simply no opportunity for him going forwards. He is not involved with any champions, and while I would love to see a feud, and I feel it would be a very good feud, between Austin Theory and Santos Escobar, I simply don't think we're there as of this moment. The LWO does need some direction, a good performance will help, but a briefcase win is not in Santos Escobar's future. 6th place is Ricochet. Much like Escobar, he's not there to do anything beyond guarantee a quality match. You will find in all matches like this, Triple H, particularly Multiman, likes to throw a few names in who are just there to make everyone look a bit good. Shelton Benjamin, for example, historically, has been very good at that, and Ricochet does an extremely good job there. The only reason he's above Escobar in my estimations is that there is a real outside possibility that Ricochet cashes in a briefcase on tag team champions. So Ricochet and Braun Strowman could potentially face Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. It's out there. I'm aware that it's out there, and it's not something I feel a lot of people would get behind. But for me, something a lot of people won't get behind is also true of Ricochet winning Money in the Bank. Butch is in 5th place, and actually here is where things start to get a bit more interesting. Butch and Gunther have quite a lot of history. There have been reports that Butch will be returning to being Pete Dunne, and of course Pete Dunne is the one who lost the NXT UK Championship to Volta way back when Volta was a name that people actually heard, knew and sung along to. They of course still have something ongoing. They've recently wrestled as part of the Sheamus and Gunther feud. But when it comes to Butch, we need a repackage to get there. I still believe it's a possibility that Butch could win this match, cash in on the Intercontinental Champion, because I feel the Intercontinental Championship is where we should be focusing when it comes to the Money in the Bank. The World Heavyweight Championship is locked in for a long time, and in fact Gunther plays into that rather than the briefcase. And at the same time, I don't see a Solo Sikoa, I don't see an Uso here. Much like the Royal Rumble, the Bloodline, or any incarnation of the Bloodline, is not represented. Roman is not under threat from the briefcase. If it is going to be a winner, I think the Intercontinental Championship is the one, and that gives Butch an opportunity. 4th is Shinsuke Nakamura, for the exact same reasons that I've mentioned. Now, after Nakamura, every other entrant not listed yet is a heel, which almost guarantees that they have to go for Seth Rollins, apart from the fact that a Seth Rollins attempt at a cash-in is a failed cash-in. So Shinsuke Nakamura makes a lot of sense to claim that Intercontinental Championship from Gunther. Nakamura is a former Intercontinental Champion and in fact originally debuted the belt which Gunther is now wearing. That said, Nakamura's actual return to the WWE has not exactly been the most celebrated so far. He entered back in a lot of fanfare, but it just hasn't stuck, and the move from SmackDown back to Raw has not been a positive one for Shinsuke Nakamura. There is a real lack of opponents for him at this point in time, whereas if he was on SmackDown, he'd likely be facing off against someone like Bobby Lashley. Until we get maybe a heel Drew McIntyre, there doesn't seem to be very much for Shinsuke Nakamura to do, unless the plan is to go against Gunther. 3rd, and this is going to disappoint people, so jump in the comments now, LA Knight. I have LA Knight listed as third. There is a huge groundswell of support, but this is coming from fans. It is not necessarily coming from backstage, where Triple H is a known fan of LA Knight, returning his name to LA Knight and pushing him a lot more effectively. But Vince McMahon is the one who signs off on the decision making. LA Knight is someone that Vince McMahon apparently isn't too hot on and may well be attempting to push to the back, but Triple H has been arguing quite successfully LA Knight's case. The biggest issue is that 1, LA Knight is a heel, and the 2, he has no ongoing storylines with anyone who's currently holding a championship. LA Knight winning the briefcase and it becoming a face turn could work out if we want him to turn face against someone like Roman, but I feel it would more likely be a championship win against someone like Austin Theory. LA Knight as a face versus Austin Theory could definitely work out. Second, and as you guys know, this will show you who is number 1, Logan Paul. Now, Logan Paul was added very late to this match, but you cannot rule out the possibility of Logan Paul winning this briefcase, primarily for business reasons. If you remember, Bad Bunny, when he first came into the company, he won the 24/7 championship and went on tour with it. He appeared on Saturday Night Live holding the 24/7 championship. That sort of exposure is what the WWE are craving. If you have Logan Paul holding the Money in the Bank briefcase, even with the possibility of, say, Seth Rollins turning up at SNL if Logan Paul is there, as an example, much like Triple H did back in the day when The Rock hosted SNL, this is something that the WWE have a lot of history with. Logan Paul is that level of mainstream star that they are pushing to work with. He has ongoing history with Seth Rollins, and I do feel there is something there that they can play with. I don't necessarily think that Logan Paul is going to be your new WWE World Heavyweight Champion, but let's be honest, let's all be honest, and yeah, I want you to jump in the comments if you don't agree with this one. You can't rule Logan Paul out, can you? Number 1, Damien Priest. Damien Priest is a heel, and that means Seth Rollins will be in the target. Damien Priest in many ways dropped down in my rankings personally, if I wasn't talking to people backstage, if purely for the fact that he's already wrestled Seth Rollins quite recently as part of an open challenge. However, this is one where Triple H and Vince McMahon are in direct competition. Triple H likes Judgment Day as they are and was intending to push Judgment Day as a whole. Vince McMahon, not quite the same. Big fan of Dominic, big fan of Rhea, big fan of Damien Priest. You may know who I'm omitting there. And there is history previously of Vince McMahon not believing in Finn Balor. The teasers of a breakup when it comes to Finn Balor, JD McDonough, are definitely being fueled by Vince McMahon's input. Damien Priest recently had a very good performance on Raw, particularly when working against Seth Rollins, and it does look like a breakaway and a potential championship run for Damien Priest is a possibility. We could see a move away from Judgment Day, a face turn to go against Gunther, but I do think Damien Priest attempting a cash-in either during or after the match between Seth Rollins and Finn Balor would make a big impact on the show and really push the story forwards with Judgment Day. The big question here is who Seth Rollins faces at SummerSlam. Logan Paul's right there. Damien Priest could be right there as well. If you haven't watched my opinions on the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, that is on screen right now that you can check out. But in the meantime, as per usual, check out Spoiler Warning on Mondays and Fridays. Time's listed there. I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic. And I'll see you all very soon.